This topic pains me to talk about, but we have to cover it. Armor in neutral. Armored moves, both blue and red, add a very unique dynamic to neutral. When you're throwing out attacks, not only do you have to worry about spacing, startup, and height interactions, but every character in this game has access to frame 1 armor with their standard counterattack. And there are a lot of command counter and red armor moves as well. If you strike into them during the armored frames, you'll lose the exchange and you might get critical hit as well for even more damage. Sounds cheap? It is cheap. This video is going to be all about how to abuse the armor system to nullify an opponent with strong preemptive attacks. If you want a video about how to deal with armor, I've linked one in the description or the text version of this guide. Some of the best times to use armor are when you predict an opponent's poke, as a reversal, or when you have frame disadvantage but you want to attack anyway, and lastly if you're really wild, as a preemptive poke itself. If your opponent has been pushing you back or outright damaging you with good buttons, you can armor through them as long as you time your read properly. Start charging counterattack just before you think your opponent will strike at you. If they do, let it go and get a critical hit, and possibly even a crumple depending on the character. If they don't strike, you can just CADC backwards or even forward if you want to be obnoxious and force a mix-up. This is a pretty safe tactic in general, and beating it requires a character with a move that can lunge far enough and has enough active frames to punish your CADC, or a support that travels far and fast like Amoga or Rayquaza. And in field phase, you can counterattack dash cancel to the side anyway to avoid those. Now CADCs have vulnerable frames right before you dash, but how easy it is to actually strike into those frames depends on the specific counterattack. Suicune can abuse counterattacks the most as it can cancel into its command counter instantly. A second use for armor is as a reversal. A reversal has slightly different meanings depending on what game you're talking about, but in Pokkén I mean attacking from frame disadvantage or when your character is just getting up or recovering from an air reset. Pokkén's design makes it so you rarely have to block a sequence of normal attacks for very long, even when you're negative on block. Most pressure sequences and all Poké combo strings have gaps in them, and it requires very precise timing to safely attack an opponent that is getting up, or they can use a command counter right through that attack. Pay attention to what attacks your opponent is using on you when you're at frame disadvantage. Attacks that start up slowly or have long recovery animations are easy fodder for armored attacks like Leaf Blade, Detect, Fire Punch, etc. unless they're done really meaty. And even then, fast armored moves like Side Strike and Extreme Speed can still beat them out. If your opponent is pressuring you with a lot of normals, but they're not using a proper setup, you can call them on this with a command counter or even a fast counterattack. This is risky, but it will make opponents second guess their pressure and let you avoid close quarters combat once you make the opponent hesitant. The final use for armor in neutral that I'll cover is as your own preemptive poke. Many command counters or other armored moves like Leaf Blade are unsafe on block and can be punished unless at a perfect distance. But that trade-off is because it will beat out most other normal attacks. If you press your button right after the opponent or the opponent's move has faster startup, you can armor right through other great preemptive attacks and land a critical hit. If you don't mind gambling some life for a chance to get a huge reward, poking with a far-reaching command counter or a standard counterattack with a really good hitbox like Suicune can get you lots of mileage. This isn't my preferred style of play, but it has been proven to be effective by top players like Thanks Wallet even in the grand finals of the Pokkén World Championships. So those are 3 ways to abuse armor in neutral: predicting pokes, reversing, and using armored pokes yourself. Use these to nullify players who are giving you trouble in footsies. Next chapter we'll go over 2 different aspects of space control: projectiles and anti-airs. If you found this video valuable, consider checking out my website where I have all the chapters of Pokkén Basics already up and a bonus chapter that will only be on my website. I put them all in a free, easy to follow course that you can bookmark and follow along with at any time.